Hi, everybody. Good evening. It is Sunday, close to 6 o'clock, and we'll just give everybody a minute to sort of filter in. I think we've still got another minute or so, but right before 6 o'clock. So welcome. If you've already tuned in, welcome. And for those who are just tuning in, we are so excited to bring you this conversation tonight. Conversation that I think none of us wish we were having, but a conversation that I think we need to have. And at the South Carolina Education Association, we're about amplifying member voices, coming together to thinking through the issues that face public educators and our students, and doing what we can to problem solve. And one of the big problems that's on everybody's radar right now is what to do about COVID-19. We've got an increasing number of students and teachers who are coming down with COVID. We had hoped we'd gotten past it, but unfortunately, it looks like this Delta variant has thrown all of us a curveball. We're seeing 20,000 students in Mississippi with COVID. Here in Horry County, where I am, on Thursday, then the total number of students and teachers was at about 185. By Friday, it was at 275. Who knows where it's going to be next week? If you've been following the news, you've heard about what happened in Pickens County and how they've gone to virtual. And we are kind of learning how to fly mid-flight, like trying to, put the plane together as we're flying this fall. And it feels, I think there are a lot of educators out there who are feeling some anxiety about it, who are feeling frustrated. And I'm seeing at schools, some teachers not wearing their masks. A lot of students weren't wearing masks. And we all know that school districts have been told that they can't mandate masks according to this proviso in our state legislature. But a couple of districts have implemented mask mandates in spite of that. And so we're here, and we're going to be talking about this today. How do we tackle this issue of COVID-19 together as we move into the 2021-22 school year? We brought in three guests tonight to talk about that. And those guests are Dr. Lenora Foster, a veteran educator, Pete Stone, who's from Louisville High School in Chester County, and the SCEA president, Sherry E. So I want to welcome them all tonight. My name is Todd Scholl. I am the Professional Practice and Policy Fellow with the SCEA and the NEA, and I'm so honored to be part of the SCEA and honored to be a part of this group tonight who are speaking about this important stuff. So we'll start with Lenora. Lenora, why is this so important for us to talk about this, and what are some thoughts as we start this conversation tonight?
Yes, Todd, thank you for inviting me to be a part of this discussion tonight. I think it's very important because, first of all, it's on everyone's minds. The teachers are, dealing with this. The students are dealing with this. The parents are dealing with this in their own way, and there is a need for local leadership to really step up and really see if we can take a hold of what we're dealing with right now. I think most would agree with me if I would say that everyone is really looking forward to some sense of normalcy in the schools once again. And I know that we are somewhat looking at things from different perspectives. But I think it's important that local leaders have that empowerment to look at the statistics, look at what they're dealing with, their larger picture, and be able to make some decisions that's going to be for the good of their community.
Thank you, Dr. Foster. Pete, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm a big believer that you don't focus on problems, but if you don't acknowledge problems, you'll never get to the solutions. And so I'm always a believer, if you look for the solutions, you will find them. And so part of the issue right now is I feel like to some extent, we're trying to ignore the problem, which means we will not seek the solution. And so I'm all about, best is the standard, living a standard of joy, freedom, peace, all those wonderful things. And that comes from realizing when there are problems, not to focus on them, not to fearmonger, but so we can get to the solution. So I think we need to open our eyes and collectively get to the solutions. And then, that is really what quiets anxiety. Who knows what the right answer is, but when you're seeking an answer, I think everyone's at ease. Instead of fighting each other, we can join together and find a solution that really is better than what we're doing right now.
Thanks, Pete. Sherry?
I think the elephant in the room here is we have a huge teaching shortage right now. And COVID has pushed a lot of our teachers, educators, bus drivers out of our classrooms. And we thought this year was going to start out on a fresh start. COVID was behind us. We were all excited about that. And then the surge hit. And here we are again. And the silent majority of folks that want to wear masks are going to have to learn to voice their opinion, because the anti-mask crowd is loud. They're very loud. And it's creating a condition of unsafe environment for our students and our teachers. I mean, adults can get vaccinated, sure, but half of our population of children cannot. I mean, so half of the kids that are in school aren't even eligible to get a vaccine. So I hear a lot of rhetoric about, well, just get a vaccine, you're safe. Well, half of our children can't get a vaccine, so they're not safe. And what would you do to keep those children safe but wear a mask? I mean, we know that is what the DHEC says to do. They say social distance and wear a mask. We know we cannot social distance under normal circumstances in our overcrowded classrooms. That can't happen. So the next best thing is we have to do a mask, wash our hands, stay home. Don't send your kids to school sick. We've heard several reports of people who knew they had children with COVID and sent them straight on into school. I mean, we know that happens. So I think we need to all back off of the politics of this a little bit and look at safety and revert to our medical experts and follow the guidance of the medical folks that are telling us how to keep our children safe. And I'm sad to say, I don't think that we're doing what's best for our children right now when we get into these adult arguments and those babies carry that to school. And then it creates controversy in our classroom for our teachers, because the teacher last year with 3 weeks to go were put in the middle of the anti-mask parents, the pro-mask parents, move my kid, don't move my kid. I mean, it was very hectic for teachers. And unfortunately, a lot of teachers said, I'm done, I'm out. I can't, just one more thing. It's not worth it. So I really think we need to take a strong look at what we can do to support everyone in our school system and keep our children safe.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sherry. I think that the keys that we've been sharing at the SCEA is for everybody who's eligible to get vaccinated as soon as possible. That we know that vaccination helps slow the spread. It will, if enough people can get vaccinated, then we won't continue to have these variants, because we don't know if down the line, the next variant or the variant after that will make the current vaccines not work. We know that the Delta variant is breaking through with some people who've had the vaccine, but we also know that people who have vaccinated tend to have much better outcomes than those who are not vaccinated when they contract the Delta variant, which is about 2 times as contagious as the previous variants, and seems to be the data suggests that it is causing more problems for people when they contract it. So it's really important to encourage people to get vaccinated. When you go to a public place in a school, we're encouraging all teachers, all educators, all students to mask up. That is not a Herculean task to ask somebody to do that. And if it helps prevent the transmission, we're asking people to do that. And then the last thing, of course, is to speak up, to speak out, speak to your legislators, to write, to call, speak out through your social networks and at your school, to speak out about what is right about how we finally can overcome this. Sherry, can you talk a little bit about someone who may want to contact their state legislator? How do they frame that message in a way that might get through?
I think as educators, anyone in the school system needs to let your legislator know how you feel about wearing a mask and safety and what's going on in the classrooms around the quarantine situation. We can't have it both ways, folks. You can't have no mask and then expect us all to be there all the time. We don't have the staffing to cover schools, and your legislators need to hear that. They need to hear how many people are out in quarantine in your building. How many days can you afford to miss? I just got off the phone today with a lady who has been put on quarantine and she doesn't have any sick days. So she's getting doctor pay. And so I urged her, call me, of course, and I'm going to try to help her, but she needs to let her local legislator know that she is a responsible educator and she just got put on quarantine until September 4th. So she has no sick time and she's going to lose pay over that. So that's how it affects her. That's her real story. So I would say if you have never reached out to your legislator, it's time now to build that relationship and just let them know the conditions of your school. Like, this is my issue and this is why I need you to, one, reenact COVID sick days. I need you to rescind the proviso so my school district can keep me safe.
Dr. Foster, what are your thoughts about this? Like, as we communicate to others in our communities or to legislators, what are some effective ways that you think we can communicate and kind of get through to people the message we need to get through?
Well, I am in total agreement with what Sherry just said, and just keeping that story real and bringing it home to the parents, that they really understand what it's like to be in a classroom as a student and as a teacher during a time such as this. I teach high school students, and students are expressing to me their anxieties about just keeping up with their schoolwork. They could be wearing their mask, they could be doing all they know to do, and they're in class, and with virtually no warning, they could be called to the office and they have to go into quarantine. And so therefore they're forced to stay home, and they're forced to do virtual learning in some capacity. And in some sense, it's very unfair to them, because they may miss as many as 4 to 6 days of school before they can find out the results from a test. And so when students are met with this reality every day, they're not sure if their teacher is going to be there the next day, because the teacher may also have to be quarantined. It gets really real very fast. And we're in a situation where several teachers may be quarantined. And so now you have to have substitutes in the building. Sometimes the entire classroom has been quarantined. And so it's disruptive to the learning process. So we're glad to be back in the building, but we're not experiencing the ultimate learning environment that we're supposed to have in the building, because it's constantly, daily being disrupted by the very real situation of being quarantined at any given moment.
Thank you. Pete, you recently released a video. We've been sharing that. We're going to continue to share that. Such a positive, uplifting message about the importance of educators speaking up and sharing their truth to create the power and the change that we need to give students the schools that they deserve. Tying into the video that you created, you're so effective as a communicator. What is some advice you can give to other educators about finding their own voice, speaking their own truth? Can you talk a little bit about that and tie it into this context of COVID in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the educators who are hesitant to share their voice are very empathetic and considerate of others, so they might be sabotaging their own message by, kindly not wanting to offend someone else. And some great advice I came across just this week is speak as if you are correct and listen as if you are wrong. Speak as if you're correct and listen as if you're wrong. And then we move beyond just, I want to prove that I'm right, to I really want to get to the truth. And come, let us reason together. And that old saying, before I can make a withdrawal, I got to make a deposit. So I have to show my willingness to listen. And so many educators are really good listeners and really trying to make things work. And never be afraid of your truth. We all have an imperfect vision of what the truth may be, because we each hold a little piece of that. So respect your own truth with as much admiration as you respect another person's. And then this brings us into an ability to communicate. And that's a powerful message to communicate to our children as well, to our students. And, that old be the change you wish to see in the world, that's possible. And the most powerful thing you have in the entire world is your truth. You cannot cover truth up but for so long. And the nice thing I like about sharing your truth is it's not being against anyone, it's being for truth. And as simple as that. So speak with confidence, and sharing your truth is compassionate, because the world needs to hear exactly what you have to say. So speak it, and that's your best way of blessing others in this whole thing.
That's beautiful, Pete. Thank you. One of the things that I've been thinking about is, how do we get through to people? There are so many people that have bought into the disinformation that's being disseminated across social media and the internet, on certain news outlets. They've bought into disinformation, and they're not listening to folks like Dr. Linda Bell, the state's epidemiologist. They're not listening to the CDC. They're very distrustful of anything that's involved with the state or any type of authority figure, and trusting their own internet research and things they've heard from people in their bubble and their circle. One of the things that I've noticed is I think that it's it's natural. I think all of us have believed something that was wrong before. And you come to a point where over time you recognize that belief's wrong, but it's very difficult. It takes a lot of humility to then admit, the way I was thinking about that was wrong. I probably need to listen to the experts, the folks that have really invested their lives and really know what they're talking about. And I need to give up this, like you said, this idea of being right. That takes a lot of humility. You have to really diminish the ego to admit when you're wrong. And I think what happens is sometimes we know the vaccines work. We know the vaccines, all the research shows that they're safe. We know that masking helps reduce the spread. But when you're strident about that and you're almost mad about it when you're talking to people, I've noticed that people kind of put up walls and will immediately get defensive, and there's no way of changing the bad ideas that they hold. So we'll start with Sherry. How do we break through effectively? How do we communicate effectively to our community members, to our parents, to folks who are still holding on to this disinformation as truth?
I think part of it is that mutual respect. Like, I do respect everyone's right to think and feel and take advice from who they want, but where did they get that advice? I mean, did they get it from social media? Did they talk to their doctor? And I'll be honest, I wasn't going to get a vaccine. I did my research. I teach science. I researched all of it. And I thought, well, people weren't dying at that time. So why would I, risk a vaccine? I will be okay. But guess what? I talked to 3 of my doctors, and 3 of my doctors said, we're seeing a lot of post-COVID symptoms, heart troubles, this, that. Why would you even risk that? And I was like, you're right. Why do I think I have enough medical knowledge in my brain to make that decision? 3 of my medical experts that I trust with my life when I'm sick told me to get a vaccine. So I went and got one. And I will say, from a personal note, I watched somebody a couple of weeks ago who didn't have a vaccine spend 2 days in ICU on a ventilator and almost died. And that became very real to me and his family. And it wasn't political for him. It was the same thing as, COVID's not that bad, I'll live through it. But he almost didn't live through it. So I do think when you see those examples, I hope it doesn't come to that. I hope that's not what changes people's minds, is they finally decide to get a vaccine because someone close to them almost dies. That's a horrible experience, I will tell you. So I would say we have to respect each other's right to, like, I don't believe in masks, I don't believe in vaccines. Okay, fine. But could you do it for the safety of others? Like, you might not want to put a vaccine in your body, fine, but could you at least not cause trouble for the folks that want to wear a mask and be safe? That's the part that I have found so disheartening about this, is the anger from the anti-masker crowds that want to convince me that I'm an idiot. I don't try to tell them they're an idiot. You don't believe in this, fine, but stop the progression of the disease by me. Go ahead and let your kid wear a mask, or do the opt-out. I'm at the point now, let them opt out, let them not wear a mask, but please don't let the rest of us suffer because of your beliefs. At what point do we get to there where, okay, you can believe what you want, but now it's hurting me and my family? And I think we have to have some respect there for that as well. But you're right. I don't think you'll convince some folks that this is anything serious until they're faced with a loved one dying.
Dr. Foster.
Yeah, I would say empathy, just really stressing empathy. Maybe you're not experiencing it yourself. Maybe you are strong and healthy. Maybe you think you can beat this thing should you contract this virus. But what about other people? Step into someone else's shoes. It's not just about you. It's about your community. It's about your family. It's about someone else's family. And just realize that we're not an island. We are a larger community that we depend on each other, and we depend on each other to be healthy as well as depend on each other for other things. So I think just stressing that. I know, if I may speak for some, that in my immediate community is sometimes they're very, very adamant about their position. And it takes them actually seeing someone, unfortunately, close to them in their community suffer with this. And if that person survives the initial attack of the virus, just dealing with the long-term effects. And that's what opens their eyes. But we're as time is going on, we're continuing to share with them, listen, does it take you watching multiple people go through this before you make that decision to help the next person?
Thank you. Pete?
I think what people need to know is that you're speaking to them because you care. If it's a hot day and I have a really wonderful cold glass of Gatorade, I want to share that with someone because I care for them. This is just so good. I want you to have this. I'm concerned for you here. Please, take this because I care for you. Not that I'm trying to control you. I want you to say, you know what, Pete, you're so smart. But no, when the individuals I've talked to that have been able to make a difference, they have seen that I am speaking because I'm truly concerned and I care, and also validating some of those fears and concerns. I mean, it's true that there are nasty things in our government's history that have created some of that distrust and wedged it in there. But again, so acknowledging that as true and say, I hear that, I understand that. And all I'm saying is, I believe the best thing right now for this is to get that vaccine. And, asking questions about what someone believes, I can convince no one of anything. Everyone must convince her or himself of everything. So I'm never going to convince anyone. Everyone can only convince themselves. And one of the best ways to do that is to simply facilitate maybe an interview of someone with themselves. I know that's how I appreciate when someone's talking to me, ask me questions so I can unfold. And I may not never admit it to somebody, but, I planted a seed there. And later I think, you know what? I'm aware now of what I was unaware of. And sometimes I go back and say, thank you for helping me see that. And so I think that's why I care for you. And that's why I'm sharing this with you.
Yeah, I think your point, Dr. Foster and Pete, like the empathy and the care. I think it's really easy to see all of this data come in and to get really frustrated and to get angry, and then you just want to lash out. And I know I've done it, and I think I don't think that convinces anybody. I don't think being angry and lashing out at people convinces anybody of anything other than I'm not going to listen to that guy because he's lost control. So for me, this is all. We have to tap into the love and the empathy. So we have to tap into, listen, this is important to me because I love you and I want you to be well. I want my kids to be well. I want all kids and all teachers to be well. I want our schools to be a safe place for people to go. And I want us to move past this thing together. And that's why we titled this Tackling COVID Together, because it's not going to happen if we continue to stay separated, if we're not working on this together. We can't do it alone. We can't do it with half of the population. We have to do this together, and we have to come to some conclusions about who it is we're going to trust. Because if I have like Sherry said, if I have a medical issue, and I go to my doctor, and let's say I have a neurological issue, and they send me to a neurologist, I can do my own research on it, and I have. But at the end of the day, at some point, I'm going to have to make a decision about what procedure, what test I'm going to have, what medication I might be prescribed, and I have to determine who it is I'm going to listen to. And is it going to be my own research? Is it going to be some YouTube video I watch? Is it going to be some random person on the internet? Or am I going to listen to my doctors who've been training for years and practicing for decades and seen situations like mine over and over again and know what to do? And it doesn't mean we turned off our critical mind. Doesn't mean maybe you don't get a second opinion, but at some point you got to figure out who you're going to trust. And what I see happening here is too many people are trusting in the wrong sources, and we need to go back and trust the experts. Before we again, doing all of this with a heart of love, with a heart of compassion for everybody else, and calmly having conversations with people so that we can help them see that maybe there's some better ideas for them to consider. Before we wrap up, let's go around, just get one final thought from everybody, from Sherry, and then we'll go to Dr. Foster and then Pete.
I guess my wish or my hope is that as we start back school, we've seen in Pickens County, it took 9 days to shut a whole district down. Pickens County last year went back, no mask, face to face, didn't shut down all year. This variant is not to be played with. This variant is serious, and it shut a district down in 9 days. Most of our schools haven't been back 9 days yet. So we can either mask up and stay in school face to face like we want, or my fear is that you will have so many people out on quarantine, you will be virtual mid-September-ish. So we need to put our priorities in order and make it about the children, not about our political views and not about some political situation of what you believe and not believe. And if we're doing what's best for children, then we're always doing what's right.
Thank you, Sherry. Dr. Foster.
Yes, I would say to continue to be proactive. If your student is not feeling well, if your student is exhibiting symptoms, please, please, please keep them home. Keep them home. Do not send them to school and just assume that it's just a common cold. But please be proactive about that, and please make some wise decisions based on the recommendations of the CDC and your doctors as to how to protect yourselves.
Thank you so much. Pete?
I think it's critical that we, for the sake of dealing with the Delta variant, which is very real and affecting people, and then the things that will inevitably come up in our future, a lot of where we are right now is just the disinformation age, as you mentioned, from a technology of mass communications like we've never had in human history. So what we have to get right is listening to the experts, having these conversations, because that saying from Dr. King, we can either flourish together as brothers and sisters or perish as fools. And it's really, I don't want to say a test, but it's an opportunity for us to move past these kind of biases and look at the facts and the truth, put partisan divides aside so we can really tap back into the humanity of one another and realize that we collectively share this world together, and then look at it from that way. That's what I'll say about it. So,
all right. Well, I just want to thank everybody. If whoever's tuned in tonight, and if you're watching this on a recording, thank you for joining us. I want to thank Dr. Lenora Foster, Pete Stone, and Sherry East for being a part of this important discussion tonight. We want you to be a part of this discussion as well. We're encouraging you to talk about everybody getting their vaccine. Everybody who's eligible to get their vaccine. I think it's 12 and up. Get your vaccine. Mask up. Even if it's not a mandate, even if it's not required, when you go into a public school, you go into a public place, wear a mask. Do your part to help prevent the spread of this COVID-19, and then speak up. And that could look like talking to people in your school, talking to people in your community, getting on your social network, on your pages, and sharing real information from credible sources like the CDC, like South Carolina DHEC, sharing those statistics and that data, that information that is presented by the experts, and not sharing disinformation. And then finally, if you're not a member of the South Carolina Education, we would love for you to work with us to make our collective voice stronger. You can find out more about the SCEA at the scea.org, and you can join our movement for the schools that South Carolina students deserve. And those students deserve to go into a safe place and a place where we can give them the instruction they need without worrying about transmitting this deadly disease. So it is your voice, it's our power, it's their future, and we invite you to be a part of what we're doing here at the SCEA. We can do it if we do it together. So thank you so much again to everybody who joined us tonight, to the panelists, and we wish you good health and use your voice. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.